I think is the first one for the spring 2023, and as we would like to let you know, we are going to record this event that we're going to distribute through our website. It's our pleasure to have two experts in the area from Democritus University of Greece, Dr. Dimitriou and Dr. Karagkouni. Dr. Dimitriou, educational background includes doctorate econometric modeling for quantitative demand forecasting transportation. He has 25 years professional experience, share on 3 pillars of activities, many publications, a great team of researchers, and his research output includes more than 300 papers in more prestigious journals. Of course, in 2018, he awarded by Professional Achievement Award in Greece by the British Council for the Study United Kingdom Alumni Awards. Dr. Karagkouni, that I'm very happy to see her even virtual today. Education background includes doctoral degree in sustainable development and management of infrastructure from Democritus University of Thrace, Department of Economics, Master of Science, Environmental Management for Business from Cranfield University, United Kingdom, and the diploma equivalent of 4 years BA and 1 year Master in Civil Engineering in Transportation Planning. She's currently is part of, from Dr. Dimitriou research team, is postdoc researcher in the Department of Economics. In her research area is on intermodal transports, innovation planning and management. She has participated in more than 50 publications in scientific journals, the national conference and workshops. It's a pleasure to have you guys here. We are looking forward to your interesting work and to present it to us. And after your presentation, Zoitsa is going to moderate the Q&A. I would like also to mention that this event is in collaborating with the WTS FAU chapter. Zoitsa is the president of the event. Thank you, Zoitsa, that you put this together. Dr. Dimitriou.
Thank you very much, Professor. It's glad for us to participate in this event. This is the second year that we contribute to FMRI webinars providing dedicated lectures in specific topics. This makes us very happy because this is a strong collaboration between intercontinental universities and also a very prestigious university like Florida Atlantic University that Professor Kaiser and his team is leading. So today we have the presentation. If you wish, Ms. Karagkouni, Dr. Karagkouni, to share the screen in order to have one single grade. We speak about sustainability performance appraisal. The keyword is the appraisal for transportation infrastructure. We see that we are a group of 35, close to 35 participants. That means that is very, very attractive, that subject. Just to inform you that the previous weekend, the weekend before, it was a large event in business, a business event in transportation, but not only in transportation, business ecosystem in Thessaloniki, a pan-European conference, where a lot of business, a lot of enterprises highlight the high need in Europe to discuss about sustainability performance and the process in order to see how we accreditate business entities in that sector, in transportation sector. The team, it's the research, part of the research that we presented here. It's part of a large project in Europe named NIRIST, that is Intelligent Transportation Systems in supply chain and transport and shipping, as well as, and you can see there, you can find a lot of details if you wish about the output of that research, and also supported by the VIP for Right network of experts where you can find in LinkedIn. In order to, we are a lot of experts in Europe, especially in Europe, but also in the US. We contribute and we share information. And I ask you or I request you to join us. Just to highlight that speaking about sustainability, this is in the top of the agenda, especially in Europe, where all the public funds, all the support from the governments goes in order to meet the transformation of business in more sustainable arena. And what exactly is this sustainability arena? Will present it in a while, Mrs. Karagkouni, Dr. Karagkouni. And especially regarding transportation infrastructure, because transportation infrastructure, as you understand, there is heavy infrastructure, means that when we discuss about the transformation of a port or an airport or a motorway or whatever, needs a lot of time, needs capitals and time. And so this is a high priority in Europe. And please believe me that in Europe, the issue of sustainability, maybe it's or the society or the business ecosystem, if you wish, are very aware about the issue of sustainability. We are very often, even in the newspaper, you can read articles regarding the need to proceed more quickly in order to meet an agenda, the agenda of 2030, where Europe decide to cut the carbon offset by 30%, if I remember right. And transport sector, because it's heavily dependent on carbon oil or crude oil, and also because of the materials that they use in order to provide services, it's one of the sectors that feel that the system believes that needs more time or otherwise needs more hard efforts in order to during the process of transition to a more sustainable framework. So I leave the floor now to Dr. Karagkouni in order to present us how we are now in a research, how the research community move on regarding to implement tools for appraisal, the level of sustainability in transport infrastructure entities.
Thank you, Professor. I hope you can hear me loud and clear.
Very well.
As Professor Dimitriou mentioned before, we're very glad to be part of the FMRI's webinar series for a second year in a row. Just to give you a brief background of today's presentation, as you may have already seen in the flyer, the event flyer that has been circulated a few days ago, the main purpose of this research of today's webinar is to present you the significant issue of transportation infrastructure sustainable development, mostly related to the appraisal of corporate performance upon the achievement of sustainable development goals. And if I may, in more simple words, our goal today is to familiarize you with the interesting, on the one hand, and state-of-the-art, on the other hand, issue of critical infrastructure sustainability performance assessment. By, of course, presenting some of our recent work in this field and give you some food for thought and further discussion on this interesting topic. I think that Professor Kaiser recently described our background, academic profile, and specialization in this field. So I'm quickly moving on the outline. I will give you the outline of today's presentation. So in the introductory part of the presentation, we will provide you an overview of the research question under investigation in this project. We outline the need for developing an evaluation framework in terms of critical infrastructure, corporate performance, and total quality management aspects upon sustainable development. In the second part, we provide you the research methodology framework of our project, the purpose, the novelty, and its contribution to the general field of sustainability. And of course, the critical subject of evaluating critical infrastructure corporate performance upon sustainable development. Then we'll provide you some literature background on this topic, based on comprehensive and dedicated literature review, implemented in research publications, reports, and acknowledged papers regarding the critical issue of assessment, appraisal of critical infrastructure corporate performance towards sustainability. Then we will provide you the methodology framework for addressing the research question under investigation. Afterwards, the evaluation modeling computation. We will apply the proposed modeling framework into a case study area focused on large transportation infrastructures, and as Professor Dimitriou mentioned. We'll provide you with some research outcomes based on the evaluation modeling framework, and of course, present you some key concluding remarks, recommendations, and proposals for further research, and of course, our recent, as I said before, work on this field, some publications in scientific research journals and conferences. Just to give you a briefly background on the general subject of critical infrastructure sustainable performance, we know that within the last decade and more recently, a series of international agreements and actions and organizations have been set forward in order to strengthen the global response against climate change. And we know that at the heart, at the core of this action, of course, stands the 2030, the UN's 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. So business and enterprises have a significant, a major role to play in this change, in this transformation, since their activity significantly, as we know, burdens the climate and affect climate change. So at the same time, the internal, let's say, practices concerning employees or production or the distribution process across organizations and policies towards contractors and suppliers could make a significant difference to achieve the SDGs concerning sustainability and, of course, the big issue of climate change. And nowadays, in early 2023, with our eyes to the European Green Deal, with the goal of carbon neutrality until 2050, the European Investment Bank is supporting governments and businesses to adopt more innovative, more sustainable business solutions. So companies need, let's say, more appropriate system in order to monitor, to evaluate, and somehow regulate their own behavior in order to identify whether or not they act effectively to the concerns of their various stakeholders and achieve sustainability and the sustainable development goals. And sustainable development, of course, we know that can be achieved by maintaining a balance between environmental, social, and economic needs. So stricter, let's say, legislation and added more pressure on organizations and business and corporations could lead to more efficient waste management, concern about climate change, and other aspects that somehow exemplifies society's expectations with regard to sustainable development and the achievement of all these sustainable development goals. And given that the most important, let's say, component of effective and comprehensive total quality management within organizations concern programs with ongoing enhancement throughout the course of the duration, and sustainability emerges as an essential component in this part. So in order to accomplish the goals of effective strategic planning, an organization will need to follow its strategic aim and devote more efforts toward a comprehensive operating environment in order to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals. I will give you a background about the overview, let's say, of research methodology for this subject. The adopted research methodology, the methodological framework that we follow, is divided into 5, as we can see, distinguished steps in order to address the research question under investigation. The first step, which is analyze, concerns the research literature, the literature review background. Well, the next step, which is defines the methodological framework adopted to address the research question. The next step provides information about the computational modeling framework developed to evaluate corporate performance and total quality management upon critical infrastructure sustainable development. Then the apply step refers to the application of the proposed evaluation framework, the collection of the relevant data related to the chosen case study area, and of course the presentation of the research results. And finally, the conclude step concerns the result discussion, the research key concluding remarks, and of course recommendations for further research in the field under examination. So, regarding our literature background, during conducting this research, the past 3.5 years, as Professor Dimitriou mentioned, over 300 research publications, reports, papers in scientific journals, presentations and international conferences, and of course other scientific events in the field were examined and reviewed. And based on this literature, we identified that there has been a global effort towards the achievement of the Agenda 2030 and of course its 17 Sustainable Development Goals under the threat of extreme and unexpected events related to climate crisis and climate change. And in this framework, international organizations and institutes have formulated a series of indices in order to try to monitor and evaluate human development under the pressures of physical and, of course, technical environment associated with human activities. So, in this framework, the UN has launched the PHDI, which is a new index trying to evaluate human development adjusted by the planetary pressures of human activities. And of course, we understand that transport sector is particularly among many industries affected by the threat of climate change. It of course is in very urgent need for actions in terms of impacts, climate change impacts, mitigation and adaptation. So the transport industry as a whole will be very vulnerable to the effects of climate change, and will require in the next few years significant adjustments and modifications to be made to its infrastructures, operations, and of course the offered services. Now, in terms of the linkage between sustainability and the business, the corporate environment, the review literature suggests that the use of strategic management tools is becoming increasingly important in the field of sustainability studies and sustainability practice around the world. So, as the expectations of the stakeholders for environmental, social, and governance, what we say ESG performance, continue to rise, many companies are engaging in a variety of sustainability actions for meeting those expectations, of course, gaining a more competitive advantage by integrating sustainability strategies into their overall strategy, as well as their organizational processes and structures. And of course, a series of evaluation and reporting systems have been developed in order to integrate and improve environmental, social, and economic corporate performance. By taking, of course, into consideration, as I said before, many stakeholders' interests and expectations. So in terms of critical infrastructure, stakeholders' engagement is a very significant aspect in terms of strategic planning, mostly related to sustainability performance assessment. And of course, in this context, we have to notice that the linkage between the total quality management, associated tools and the procedures on the one hand, and corporate performance upon sustainability on the other hand, has been also investigated the past few years by the academic and research community. And according to this research, TQM, total quality management, sustainability management, share remarkable similarities since their long-term objectives are very comparable. And I will explain myself. These remarkable similarities concern mostly the optimization of resource usage, the enhancement of social welfare, and of course the achievement of maximum demand. So, in order to summarize, the literature review highlights that although there has been a lot of research and effort conducted by international organizations and institutions regarding globally set sustainability targets like the SDGs in national and corporate levels, and corporate performance assessment in terms of financial and ESG aspects, very limited research has been focused on the overall evaluation of corporate performance and total quality management aspects upon critical infrastructure sustainable development by adopting a more, let's say, holistic approach of sustainable development and taking into consideration environmental sustainability comprehensiveness, technological efficiency transition, and of course their contribution to socioeconomic development. So based on that dedicated and extensive literature, this research, this project aims to develop a novel and of course a comprehensive assessment modeling framework which will take into account all these parameters. So, in terms of our methodology framework, we know that large-scale infrastructure projects are typically planned with long-term perspectives, and because of this, it's necessary to incorporate suitable infrastructure facilities from the very beginning of their planning and operation of these projects, in order to ensure that the project viability will continue for long term. So these infrastructures are designed to be robust against climate threats, against future climate change, and of course extreme weather situations conditions. And the relationship between the primary, let's say, pillars that enable resilient and long-term business performance is depicted in the first graph of this slide. This connection between environmental consciousness and the ecosystem of business is very crucial, and adopting the appropriate actions in order to create a healthy, let's say, equilibrium between these two pillars can assist organizations to perform more effectively. And it is essential, we believe, in this context, to conduct environmental performance evaluations of significant facilities such as a large transport infrastructure, such as airports, in order to maintain resiliency and business sustainability. In this framework, we believe that organizational maturity models and frameworks could be a valuable assessment tool for examining a company's, a business operations, and determine its degree of maturity in terms of management performance practices inside the company. So this of course, could be accomplished by assessing the organization's procedures. Just to give you background, organizational maturity refers to the level of adoption, if you wish, of the performance of management tools, the shaping of internal performance management processes, the relationship through which performance management systems are run and administrative, the construction of performance management conceptual architecture. So organizational maturity models, the OMMs, are often characterized by 5 levels, 5 degrees of development, as we can see. So in terms of the key environmental criteria for evaluating management performance, corporate management performance, we understand that there is a series of different approaches that have been established for the purpose of evaluating and monitoring the performance of environmental management and critical infrastructure. These methodologies and these approaches take into account a variety of both qualitative and quantitative criteria. Qualitative evaluation criteria are mostly related to, let's say, environmental sustainability strategy, comprehensiveness in terms of phased actions and measures taken by the management regarding the key environmental management performance aspects. So this approach reflects evidence of corporate strategy towards sustainability, towards environmental sustainability. On the other hand, quantitative evaluation criteria are related to the level of critical infrastructure technological efficiency transition towards sustainable development. And these criteria express the environmental consequences of critical infrastructure operation associated with climate change implications, resource consumption, as well as impacts on local communities' health and quality of life levels. So this approach reflects the level of infrastructure technological efficiency transition towards sustainable development resulted by the environmental impacts of critical infrastructures operation. And of course, in the context of strategic planning, a series of techniques and methodologies have been developed for the analysis of the internal and the external environment of a company and the balance between them in relation, of course, to the goal of the goals that have been set. So SWOT analysis, multi-criteria decision-making methods such as sustainability balance scorecard are methodologies that are usually used as tools in organizations to transform corporate strategy into more measurable goals. And apart from all this, the analytic hierarchy process is a tool for prioritizing the expectations and the interests of different stakeholders and their effective involvement in the decision-making process. So in this context, we believe that another theory, which is modern contract theory, can be the basis for creating tools for balancing the interests of stakeholders regarding the performance of an organization upon sustainable development. And just to give you a bit of a background, contract theory, modern contract theory, a part of it, of the list, was awarded with Nobel Prize in Economics in 2016, if I'm not wrong. So we believe that could be the basis, modern contract theory could be the basis for creating new management tools regarding corporate performance upon sustainable development. And of course, in terms of critical infrastructure contribution to socioeconomic development, indicators of social performance are organized into 3 main categories according to the main principles provided by GRI, labor practices, decent work, human rights, and of course product responsibility. So based on the above, And in order to assess large transport infrastructure social sustainability perspective, employment, occupational health and safety aspects, and of course training indicators are taken into consideration. Then in terms of economic effects resulted by transport infrastructure operation, these, as you may already know, can be broken down into four main categories: direct, indirect, induced, and catalytic economic effects. And of course, in order to estimate transport infrastructure business development perspective, a series of indicators reflecting infrastructure business activities performance could be taken into consideration. These indicators could be related to annual passenger traffic volumes, generated revenues, and of course, CapEx as they demonstrate potential business development. So, the sustainability strategy chosen by an organization influences how inter-organizational interactions affect company performance in the context of sustainability and the achievement of sustainable development goals. So changes in expectations have also been prompted a rethinking, I would say, of methods for long-term sustainability, and of course the growing demands and diverse viewpoints and interests of stakeholders for more innovative and sustainable business performance, combined of course with some drawbacks of transactional contracting, have contributed to the development of new tools for more effective approach in sustainable performance. As I said before, we believe that modern contract theory could offer a practical and let's say effective approach in order to formulate objectives across different sustainability dimensions. The three main dimensions of corporate sustainability: environmental management, performance, technological efficiency transition, and of course contribution to socioeconomic development and their linkage. Regarding the methodological framework of our project, I won't bother you with many details about the computation of the valuation modeling and the detailed steps. Just give you background and overview, a brief overview about the 5 distinguished steps. Before that, I have to say that the methodological approach of this project consists of 2 main levels. First of all, we evaluate corporate performance with an emphasis on quantitative assessment of sustainable development dimensions related, as I said before, to environmental sustainability comprehensiveness, technological efficiency transition, and contribution to socioeconomic development. And then we develop a prototype assessment modeling tool for evaluating critical infrastructure sustainability strategies. So the proposed evaluation modeling framework consists of 5 distinguished key steps, which concern the first step, the indicators computation and their adjustment through a min-max transformation to indices with values between 0 and 1. Then the computation of importance multipliers, weights for each criteria, to identify the importance multipliers for each evaluation category, for each criterion related to key environmental management performance aspects. The multi-criteria analytical hierarchy process was established in order to quantify the relative importance of each of the evaluation criteria, of each of the importance multiplier. The relative importance, the weight of each of the evaluation criteria is identified through a dedicated stakeholder consultation. Then the third step concerns the assessment of sustainability, the 3 sustainability dimensions, in order to evaluate corporate performance upon critical infrastructure sustainable development, assessment of environmental sustainability comprehensiveness, technological efficiency transition, and of course socioeconomic development is implemented. The 4th step concerns the evaluation of sustainability strategy, as I said before, based on the 4 basic assumptions and taking into consideration related insights and observations from modern contract theory, a practical approach is formulated in order to assess critical infrastructure, corporate performance, and total quality management aspects in terms of potential sustainability strategies. And of course, the fifth and final step concerns the aggregated index development. This step mainly concerns the aggregation of indices related to the three sustainability dimensions: environmental sustainability, comprehensiveness, technological efficiency transition, and socioeconomic business development, to the critical infrastructure corporate performance upon sustainable development index into one aggregated index. So now I will provide you some insights about the application of this model, of this methodological framework on a case study area. Our case study is focused on, as you can see, on a group of European capital airports serving international flights, as of course they present similar characteristics, and this could lead to the extraction of comparable results. We focus on airports, European airports, in Group 1 of ACI Europe's categorization, which means airports with annual passenger traffic volumes more than 25 million pax in 2019, which was the last year before the COVID-19 outbreak, which had significant impacts on transport and especially transport demand. We believe that we could provide, the case study area could provide messages on different sustainability strategies driven by different culture of sustainability. That's why these particular 6 airports were chosen. So the assessment has been done on a 5 years time period from 2017 to 2021. And of course, we reviewed and extract data and information from airports annual reports, sustainability reports, and of course, environmental reports. So our final sample consists of 6 airports: Athens International Airport, Munich Airport, Copenhagen Airport, Brussels Airports, London Gatwick, and Milan Malpensa. I will give you some, as I think that we're not running out of time, some brief preliminary results about the application of our proposed methodology into this sample, and some results about our aggregated index. So according to our aggregated index results, values for the case study airports for the pre-pandemic period, which means 2017 to 2019, Copenhagen Airport seems to present the highest index values, has the highest corporate performance upon sustainable development. And it's interesting that the index is greatest increase is presented by Brussels and Athens airport during this period, with an increase of 20 and 18% respectively. On the other hand, for the pandemic outbreak, which concerns the years 2020 and 2021, a significant increase, of course, in the index is observed at all case study airports. The lowest decrease presented by Munich Airport and Athens Airport demonstrated that these airports have been set up a comprehensive sustainability strategy in the pre-COVID era, allowed them to had a more smooth recovery in the post-COVID era. And of course, in 2021, a recovery in the index values presented by almost all airports except Gatwick Airport. That concerns the fact that, as you may know, after Brexit, UK had a totally different kind of legislation regarding travel restrictions in their airports. And of course, the highest recovery trend is presented by Athens Airport, the recovery trend of 2.5%, indicating that these airports' corporate performance upon sustainable development rebounds after the pandemic severe impacts. And of course, overall, we can say that in terms of our case study airports, corporate performance upon sustainable development, the index indicates that for the pre-pandemic period, increased performance was observed, while for the pandemic outbreak period, a significant decrease in the index is observed at all case study period. And I have to say here that performance recovery after the pandemic severe impacts on air transport demand patterns is a major challenge for airport stakeholders, with high emphasis given on airport operators in order to be aligned with the globally set targets among sustainable development, and of course, develop more effective sustainability strategies. And some discussion points in terms of the three dimensions of sustainability. So in terms of environmental sustainability comprehensive dimension, it's noteworthy that all case study airports incorporate at least 3 out of 5 sub-criteria related to all key environmental management performance aspects to all categories, indicating that airport operators prioritize environmental management performance issues related to emissions mitigation, energy efficiency, noise management, as well as natural resources management. In terms of the second dimension, which is technological efficiency transition, we observe that high values of the TET index indicate that airport operators have incorporated effective technological tools and processes in order to reduce airport environmental footprint by reducing the volume of CO2 emissions, energy consumption per passenger, minimizing the population exposed to high volumes of noise, as well as water consumption and volumes of the produced waste at airport facilities. And of course, in terms of the third dimension, which is contribution to socioeconomic development, for the pre-pandemic period, case study airports present increasing performance, while, as I said before, for the pandemic outbreak period, a dramatic decrease is observed. So airports with the lowest, let's say, decrease in the CED index, the third index, during the pandemic outbreak period seems to contribute more effectively to sustainable development in terms of social and economic aspects of their operations. And of course, in terms of sustainability strategy formulation, a reorganization, or in other words, organizational redesign, is often the best way in order to foster innovation and boost organizational efficiency. And of course, this restructuring, this redesign, this organizational redesign should take place within a framework of a strategic plan in order to ensure that it meets the airport's long-term sustainability strategy. So the strategic plan should include specific goals, targets, and criteria in order to be further developed in the organizational redesign process. Of course, business mapping processes could be also a helpful tool in the organizational sustainability strategy redesign process. The process of the purpose of mapping process is to record and comprehend the consequences of the process that will be altered and uncover the most efficient way to traverse the modifications that are the direct result of the process, of the mapping process. A stakeholder engagement is also a vital component of any organizational sustainability strategy design approach, and management should implement an effective communication plan with all stakeholder groups and involving them in an active way in the redesign process as soon as the need for for change, for immediate changes, is here. Of course, risk management is also a critical component of an effective sustainability strategy. Risk management consists of, as we know, three critical components: the identification of potential risks, the identifications of the likelihood and impacts of its risk, and of course, application of effective plans in order to minimize these risks impact. So in terms of critical infrastructure sustainability strategy formulation for improved corporate performance, management should consider the redesign needs, outline a strategic plan to guide the necessary changes, devoting attention to mapping a change management strategy in order to guide transition that are part of these redesign plans, and this will ensure that redesign plan and process will be carried out smoothly. So the pathway of sustainability strategy design is very crucial, both in terms of promoting the adoption of changes and the organizational agility associated to those changes. I won't bother you anymore. These are some main conclusions of the application of our project in the case study area that I mentioned before. Just to say that it's revealed that it's an easy to handle tool for assisting critical infrastructure operators in terms of effective decision making in the fields of strategic planning, performance evaluation, risk management, all with emphasis on sustainable development. And a key element of this research novelty is the multi-objective computational modeling based on modern contract theory perspective for the development of assumptions, as I said before, as well as the evaluation and analysis framework for the formulation, evaluation, and monitoring of more effective sustainability strategies. Here we provide you with some key references, our recent published work, as I said before, in this field. We hope that we'll find them interesting and helpful. And I don't know if Professor Dimitriou wants to take again the floor in order to present you some of our research activities, forthcoming research activities.
Yes, thank you very much, Aristi. It's important to, where you have the handouts of this presentation, to work a little bit about in these publications. Maybe you find a lot of more details and the information that you need in order to understand more deeply the framework of this presentation and the objective of this the outputs of this presentation, because there's a lot of research behind that. So just to highlight that we have two conferences that are taking place in Europe, and also there is web access for people that are interested on that subject. One is regarding circular economy, that is a cornerstone on the subject of sustainability, that taking place in Heraklion in Crete in June 2022, and also another one that is organized to taking place in the beginning of April regarding the development of new infrastructure, a new airport in a very attractive island in the Mediterranean, that is Crete. And we describe there how we organize what is the impact in the planning regarding sustainability, but also regarding a modern way to accommodate environmental challenges while we construct, but mainly while we operate a new transport infrastructure. This taking place in Heraklion, again in Crete, in beginning of April, 6 and 7 April. And also to tell you that you can find through our website a lot of relevant publications regarding the project, but also to contact us for information, dedicated information that you need. And also we are open again to the team here, and also to all students in the university and FMRI Institute regarding sharing information and issues that are interesting for your research. Also, I would like finally to close this presentation telling you that I understand that the majority of the participants are in the engineering field, but look at what happened in the modern era. The transport entities and especially operators are also enterprises. That means that the corporate issues are affecting the planning process. And when we speak about corporate environment, the key issue is a very interesting part is the value of this enterprise for the shareholders. The value of that part of this enterprise for their shareholders, they have two options. The first one is the book value and that relate to the accounting, where the revenues and the net profits and all the issues regarding financial outputs are very crucial in order to perform, in order to assess the book value. On the other side, it's the enterprise value or the commercial value of this enterprise, where sustainability provides a lot of additional value, a lot of higher value for the shareholders. This is the reason that the majority of that enterprises are in a process to transform in order to increase their commercial value. And for regions like in Europe or Africa or Australia, that where the enterprises and the shareholders could be funds or private sector units, this is very crucial. This is very crucial because the commercial value stimulate the interest for investments. The commercial value is a driver for action. The commercial value is the key part of a strategic plan for that companies. Thank you very much, and please feel free for questions.
Thank you, Dr. Dimitriou and Dr. Aristi, for presenting with us. It was a very nice presentation. And if anyone have any question in the WebEx, you can ask here or you can just write in the chat box.
I realize that is a coherent and compact information that you receive through that slides. I realize that you need somehow to review it, somehow to highlight a few things and address to us more specific questions. Please feel free to contact us anytime that you feel that when you review those slides and have some dedicated questions.
Dr. Dimitriou, thank you. Very, very impressive presentation from Dr. Karagkouni. I would like to mention that our audience is more from the engineering background, okay? But I think that if we have a little bit more time, because usually it's 1 hour, they will like to express questions, but they are afraid that we have to cut at 1 o'clock. But as Dr. Dimitriou said, as Dr. Dimitriou mentioned, you are welcome to send directly email to him or Dr. Karagkouni. They have all the information in front of you on the screen. We are going to distribute this to DUTh, and also we are going to publish this to our website. Zoitsa, would you like to wrap it up?
Yes, I think I don't have any question in the chat box. So also I'd like to tell that we have next webinar on February 8th, which will be co-hosted by WTS FAE student chapter and hosted by FMRI. And there, February 8th, next Wednesday at 12 p.m. The presenter is Dr. Carlos from University of Missouri. and he'll discuss about the investigation of autonomous track platoons in work zones. And I'll just send all the information later.
Dr. Dimitriou, would like to thank you. We would like to thank everyone that participate on behalf of WTS and Frame Mobility Research System. Would like to thank you, and we would like to see you soon.
Thank you very much, Professor, and thank you very much to everybody that participate. And I see a lot of participants that keep the interest for a long time for the whole presentation, Aristi. So I think that it's an interesting presentation that stimulate, let's say, the interest for people that are working, that are willing to working on that subject. And don't forget, I highlight that 35% of the posts regarding job posts and the job request in LinkedIn, 35% of posts regarding sustainability managers in transport sector, 35 more posts this year. So this is something that the industry is shifting. So it's a subject that we highly recommend to, especially to young professionals, to deal with. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank
Have a good day.
you, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.